Hello, everyone. It has been a while. Um, this is the first AI Learning Club of the year. Thank you all for joining. And for the next at least few weeks, we're going to be looking at the Deep Learning AI Agents course. I have the link over here. It's an introduction mostly to AI agents, how to think about them, how to set them up, how to make them successful. So, yeah, before I start with a summary, how did everyone think about it so far? How many completed the first module? And
I've completed it, but a while ago, so I might be forgetting something.
I plan to complete it next week or this week. My self-assessment got me. I'm so sorry. So, but I did start it. I had a little bit of issue getting the video to work on one of my browsers. I don't know what I have enabled that caused the video not to work, but thank you for starting this again. So I will just observe.
yeah, cool. So, um, module one is the introduction. It's just an overview of what is agentic AI. I prepared just a very short summary before we start discussion. Uh, the basic difference between agentic AI and non-agentic is non-agentic, you give a prompt and you get an output. And the agentic workflow, you put this on a loop. So you ask the agent to do something, to the LLM to do something, and there's a loop where the agent can reason over the output of the initial and either fetch more information, do something, or stop. So that's basically what agentic means. And this, unsurprisingly, gets a lot of benefits. So first of all, you get much better performance. Imagine if we could only code, solve issues, if we could write the code in one shot and that's it. Like we could have tested, we could have just write in one shot and ship. Of course, being able to test the code, run, view the changes makes the results a lot better. Similar with I don't know, creating a new UI. If you just go and create it, it's going to be a lot worse than if you try multiple times and iterate over the results. So you end up with much better performance. The other point that it's quite useful is prioritization of tasks. So on a step, um, you can decide that you need more information from a database or from a website. You can parallelize these tasks and fetch many things at once so that the next round is a little bit better. And also, it's easier to modularize the application. So I don't know, when I identify that there's not enough information, I could either go and fetch from a database or fetch from the web. I can plug and play the tools that are available to the agent. Um, I think this was also another place that made sense for me is in the end, the user will give a prompt and a request to the agent, and the agent will have at its disposal a model, which is the engine that will run this, but also the tools. So tools are, as we know, anything that can be. The LLMs are pretty bad at deterministic stuff, so we can offload the deterministic part to tools like fetch from a database or write some or run a test or create an issue. All of these are better relate or call an API or anything like this. So these are the tools that the the agent uses both to sense the world. So test if the changes make sense or if needs to more iteration, but also operate over the world. And then the LLMs use this, are basically deciding whether we should use another tool or we should stop, or we should use another tool, operate over it, or stop. Um, and for this, I already spoke about it in a different in between the other slides, but in general, the course, the module mentioned 4 design patterns for agents. This is still coming up. Agents is very new. Well, technically not. It's the notion of agents is already from the 60s, from AI, but the way we are using it is changing quite a bit as it becomes more and more practical. So reflection is basically allowing the agent to analyze its own response and think if it's good enough or not. So we have been doing this for a while already. So allow them to think about whether the response is good or not, and allow this back and forth as well. Um, Tool use, also something we have been doing quite a bit of time, and allowing the agent to fetch a tool that they can use to either fetch more information or perform some operation over. Planning, this is we are using this as part of the flows. So before doing an action, ask the agent can think about how they will approach the problem and create a plan, and the user can also agree with the plan, or another agent can check the plan in itself. And one that is a little bit new to us, we don't do that often, is multi-agent collaboration. So each agent becomes good at something, and you have a better outcome by having multiple agents, specialized agents interacting with each other. For example, something that we have now, like our Duo Chat can write code, but we also have the Duo code reviewer. That's another agent, right? Right now, they operate in a way that they can operate separately. So Agentic Chat will create code and then create an MR, and then the code review will comment on the MR. But imagine that they would enter a loop where the Agentic Chat would start the coding and already employ dual code review and have already a review happening before even opening an MR. And going through a few rounds of this until both agree that the current solution is good enough to go for an MR to be opened in the first place for human review. So that is an example of multi-agent collaboration. You could have a security reviewer be part of this flow already, or backend reviewer be part of this flow already. Multiple agents interact with each other to make the final solution better that will arrive to humans. Cool. That was my summary of the first module. Very easy, very smooth introduction to the topic. Discussion time, questions, and
I
conversations.
will try to jump in first. When you on the second slide mentioned it's a loop, maybe I didn't understand it right, but I understand it differently. It's not really a loop. It's you're not running the same stuff over and over again
No,
until you get the best result. As I understand it, it's like predefined steps. So first you say, for example, draft a plan, what we're going to do. Then second, do a research and search in the internet, and then like make a first sketch. So those steps are predefined, and then after making a first sketch, you can ask another LLM to review this part. So because you also mentioned you run it several times until you get a better result. It's not exactly like that. Maybe I understand it differently, but to me, it looks like a predefined steps. And when you also used example with dual code review and what was it, code creation? It's not
Yeah,
like you don't not just throw these two agents. I'm not saying you said this. Just my idea
yeah.
is you're not just throwing this into a group and say, okay, guys, fight. You need to define these steps. So you need to say, okay, generate the code, and then second step, review the code, and the third step, maybe like ask yet another LLM to do like yet another review or something like that. Uh, that's how I understand this. Yeah. Uh,
I th Does anybody want to comment on this?
I watched it also like some time
Yeah,
ago. Maybe I missed something, but yeah, in this slide you can see I understand this as predefined steps.
yeah.
It's
I,
it's
this,
not it's not decide by itself. I will do this or do that. You say like do web research and stuff like this.
it can be. So at least for me, that is the degrees of autonomy. Like if you know that a specific set of steps needs to be taken, it's better to write it down as the flow. So like this happened and then that happened and that happened. But at the same time, it's quite useful to they can operate without having this predefined step. So this very specific steps. So
Yeah, there
the
could be like some conditions, like if that, do
yeah,
that, and stuff like this. Yeah, but still, um,
it can be a loop. So
those
the
steps need to
agent
be defined. It cannot just guess them. I think. I again, I'm not 100% sure.
so our agentic chat is very open, for example, right? It doesn't have predefined steps. It takes on it has thought lines that it could go. So it has available tools, but you can ask it to create an epic, you can ask it to read some code, you can ask it to write some code, and then it has the tools available to them. So it's pretty like it has a high degree of autonomy. Um, but the code reviewer, for example, has a lower degree of autonomy because its goal is pretty specific. The number of tools it has available are narrower. Uh, so you can go either way. It can be a not loop at all. So just do this, fetch that, get this, or it can be a loop. Let me try to find a document that I
Yeah,
had
because the
here.
code review is like, if you can call it like old technology of us, but, but so for example, you said a agentic chat is how's it has a fault lines, but can it decide? Okay, I will do review, and I will also like Google thinks if this code style is acceptable or not. I assume it doesn't do this because it doesn't have it as predefined steps or one of
Yeah.
the possible steps.
Our current, at least the one that I knew is called a zero shot, or what we would call the previous one. Like you give some input and then it does something, gives an output. This is the old one. So this is the one shot. And then the next level is tool usage. It as it is able to use tools to modify the environment, right? These are the different degrees of autonomy. Then it tries to decompose the problem. So instead of it reads the intent of the user and tries to decompose it in a loop of fetch information, trying to solve a problem itself. So the autonomy keeps increasing. You're right. It can be that and that's what we are also implementing on the AI catalog is a direct flow. So it has a beginning and an end. It fetches information. So I think one of the examples that they gave is making analysis over data. So there is a very specific flow. The agent does a very specific thing. It goes, picks up, go access the web and get access the database to fetch data, and then it creates a summary of the data, and then it creates um, a recommendation plan based on the data. So that is a very linear process, which is similar to this, right? But for example, writing an essay, you wouldn't put a number of times like the LLM, the agent should review, like, okay, do this 3 times. Check if the essay is good 3 times in a row. It would be a better approach is keep doing until you find it acceptable, right? Perform these steps until you find it acceptable. Write, modify, find information, review again. Write, modify, find information, review again until it's a good outcome. So I would say that this would be more of a loop and this would be more of a straight line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but usually LLMs are pretty confident at the first go, so we done it and they say it's acceptable until you tell them,
N-
may try again. So we,
I
we
saw one
always,
trick.
as a first step, we always like say it's fine. Okay, this is a good solution. And then you start asking
I,
more questions and they say, okay, you're right. I will double check. So I don't really know if you say run it until it's acceptable. We will run it one time and say that it's acceptable.
Maybe you need to be more specific about what questions it needs to ask about whether to like to itself about what's acceptable. Because yeah,
yeah.
the LLM's going to be like, I did it. Of course, this is the greatest thing that's ever been written.
Yeah, but
And then
if you provide these questions beforehand, it will also will do it everything in one go. It will not like repeat it.
Not really, because they know what it was. They don't need to know that they wrote it. Like the goal is that they don't know that they wrote it. You can even say that another LLM wrote it. I saw this as a trick to get LLMs to think. So if you are using Claude to generate, just tell that, I don't know, OpenAI GPT created the text and have like Claude critique GPT, pretend that it's critiquing GPT-1. But when it had before and then it updates itself, like it knows what it was and the result. So for example, if I let me try to open one. I was using open code here. This is an example of an agent. Let me see if it's gonna open. Yeah. So let me go into sessions. And I was working on this one. So for I just my output, where is it? My output? What I ask it to do. Okay, so I need to scroll up a bit. So you can see how much it did work by itself, right? So this is an agent. This is a coding agent. Well, that was a lot actually. My request was implement a Robocop chat, preventing a specific issue, this one, right? So it went, and that was the question. So we decided that first it needed to find the directories, then he needed to do something, and then he needed to set something. And then he wrote, at some point, it wrote something here. Yeah, so here it writes something. But then he realizes that it's not the right way. And then he writes again. It keeps writing again. It gets output from running Robocop by itself and improving the response. And then it reads other files and improve the response to match the different pipelines or the different goals. So this, for example, is a very autonomous loop that I didn't set any kind of like list of things to do. But at the same time, if you know that steps need to be taken, that saves you money, right? Because you don't have to let the AI decide what to do.
Just a like similar question on this. Like when you say loop, like do you mean like certain parts of this operation are like looping through? Like for instance, like for this example, like we are fetching like a lot of data, right? Because like the initial prompt was like pretty small that we just have to prevent like
Hmm.
and LLM like I think it's using its like reasoning steps just to gather
Yeah,
like context, like what could be like useful in this particular like problem.
yeah,
So is it fair to say like some of the steps are like loop, as in like what needs to be gathered to like solve this issue,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because like overall like, we are still going like pretty linear, like still like because like I feel like some steps are in loop, but like overall the process is like still linear. Because at the end we are just like giving like one answer, like no one is like validating like those results or like maybe like restarting the whole loop. I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah. So the loop is basically, so this is a node definition, like the classic definition of agents. So the agent, what it does, it has a goal, an input. It has a state uh, of the world that it's looking at, and tools to either perform actions or sense the world. And this is what we call the policy, all of the actions that an agent might do. So this can be read file, write file, or do something and create merge request, whatnot. It can be different things, create commit. And one of them is stop as well. This is one of the agents. So the loop is do stuff until you stop, until you decide to stop. This is the loop. And every action is a step of it. So um, one of the actions can be get file, and then you realize this, and then you observes, okay, but I don't have enough information. Then the next action, get another file, use this, use that, and then at some point, okay, I have enough, and the action will be write code, and then the next action will be test code. And the next action, and it enters that loop, right? Until it finds. So at some point, on this one, the loop finished. At some point, it said, okay, I have an acceptable result, right? So it wrote that it did this. But so the loop itself is not like a loop of only, I'm going to now start looking for files. This could be, it could be like that. It could be that you didn't have this, it only had steps. Like first, you're going to look for files, then you're going to analyze the files, and then you're going to write the files. But what if when I'm writing the code, the LLM notices that by doing in this way, it allows, for example, the LLM to adapt in case a test failed. A test failed because it wrote some way. So now the LLM can decide that the best course of action is to find similar files with similar patterns to update their code base, to update their approach for the code base. And I do think it did that at some point here. Um, I don't remember here, but at some point it did something on those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. Like certain part, like for example, like in this case, like reasoning steps are in the loop, like for sure, because like, it's like fetching like files like dynamically, but overall process I feel like still like sort of like linear, right? Like it's
Yeah,
just like specific like reasoning part which is like in a loop.
yeah,
More like reasoning steps. Because like even if you use like Claude Chat or like even like Duo Chat, like for example, like sometimes it like autocorrects itself, like oh like
yeah.
this step was wrong, then let me fetch like another file, like something like
Uh,
that.
So you could have, for example, another step here, which is the code review. And then would be like two loops, one for the action, for writing code. And I think that's where it gets similar to this process here, right? So it's a more like of a linear path. So you first write code, then you review code, and then you write code, and then you review code. It could be that way as well. This is pretty open. You could set, okay, you're gonna do this 3 times. Sometimes I do this with my code before I push. I ask do Agentic chat to review my code and then review again and then review again and apply the changes to improve a little bit the code base, but my code base. But it's very open on what an agent should do or could do. It's degrees of autonomy that can be added.
Is an
Yes.
example for degrees of autonomy create logical commits. So like you're not telling it when to commit, but you're saying like at a logical point, create a commit. Also, when you're creating the commit, make sure you're running all the linters and tests and everything.
Yeah, it could be it can be an instruction that you make. So part of the you could have a flow, for example, a set of steps of what to do when before you commit something, right? This is one a flow or a set of that an agent could do. But
But I guess I'm saying like let the agent figure out
yeah,
where to commit, right?
yeah,
Like that's giving a lot more autonomy than saying like make a commit after you do this thing, make a commit after you do that thing. You're saying figure out the
yeah.
right spots to make the commits.
So, for example, yeah, figuring out the right spots to make a commit is something that you could either instruct them to do, but it's really hard for you to tell the LLM to do that, right? Like it's really like to pinpoint where on the thought that it could be. Um, and for example, here, not on this one, but I had another session where it had Rubocop errors. So we needed to update their own thing. So there is a tool which is commit, right? So you cannot have the LLM do that, like create a commit. No, it has to be a commit, run the files and everything. So, and because of that, the LLM, the agent is able to recheck itself, its own approach and with tests. Any other ideas? Any other comments? Discussion?
I have a quick question.
Mm.
I was wondering if multi-agent collaboration pattern also includes sub-agents.
Someone's at the front door doorbell.
Yes, I think so. It's triggering agents to do their own thing. Before I go, anybody wants to answer? Well, I already did, but I shared my opinion. Other people would like to share their opinion as well. No, only my opinion? Okay. So it's kind of like working with a team, right? Um, Sometimes you work together, or sometimes you delegate to others. When to do that is also degree, it's also level and autonomy. What to do? You can do this very explicitly. So, like you have your agents be tools that another higher level agent can trigger, or you have agents running parallel, each one sending messages to others, or each one starting the others. There are many architectures that we could have here. Um, so, for example, our agentic chat could, instead of answering a question by itself, identify that there is another foundational agent or another agent created by the user that is better at answering that question, and then delegate to them, right? This is a form of delegation. But or you could have them in a loop, or there are many possible ways. But I think yes, it's a different ways, different flavors of multi-agent collaboration.
I will ask a question for next time because I know we're at the end of time, but it's I've been struggling with getting myself up to using the team concept with agents. Like getting I don't program outside of work. I don't know, I have two kids and I'm tired. So
Yes, I agree.
and one
I
of them
am
is
too.
4 and the 4-year-old's having a moment right now. So it's just I'm having trouble. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I want a team. I'm not sure I'm ready to manage a team of LLMs right now. So I'm hopeful that this course will help me get up to the point where I'm like, how do I work that into my workflow? Because it feels like I want the dream. Like I'm sold on the dream of what this could be, but how do I get myself up to that point where I'm able to manage them better? I don't know. If folks have ideas, I'm about to go set up open code. this week, so I've not set it up yet, but it looked cool from the brief screen I saw.
Yeah, I
I'm
know we're
also
at
this.
time too, but I would love to talk about that topic. Maybe next time.
Yeah, I'm also the same step. I know I can do better, but I need like a week or so to set it up and do things and create my agent. So I
Yeah.
got started at least with the coding. I only have the coding, but I wanted something like that would create issues for me. Or, for example, one very simple flow. I wanted an agent that every now and then checked all of my failing pipelines and try to push a commit to fix it, right? I don't I want to set it up, but I don't have the time for that yet. But that is like a pipeline fixer that I don't need to be active into checking and going and triggering a pipeline, and that would commit to my own branch would make uh would be really cool for me.
Uh, just want to add here, like one of the use case from the field here, interacting with a lot of customers. I think they are thinking beyond development side. One of the customer is like, hey, there is so much of tech debt where we have so many vulnerabilities. Uh, Before we open an issue for that vulnerabilities, I want the agent to go and pull the current existing infrastructure around that application, try to understand the infrastructure better where that application is running, and then do some kind of correlation against the Terraform state files. And
Mhm.
basically, at the end, trying to figure out like, hey, this particular vulnerability is if the application is customer facing with a lot of um, firewall policies and other policies, we treat it differently than a application which is more internal. So I want you to do some kind of profiling, and I want to use like agents to bring all this data and do some intelligence on top of that, and then open a issue in terms of fixing the vulnerability. Again, I'm throwing out like there are a lot of such use cases. One of the use case is where the customer has an architectural review board, and they have to review all the changes happening every week. And as part of that, they are overburdened with doing the reviews because the documentations are not up to date, the diagrams are not up to date. There are things like which they have to pull all together to do a review, and then they send it back, and then it goes into a cycle. So they built a tool set where they are loading the code base, they are loading the documentation, they are loading every aspect of it based on the reviews, whatever application is getting reviewed, and then they are doing an impact analysis for the request and seeing like what is the impact of doing this request. So again, like a review board trying to bring AI and all these different agents to interact with this complex ecosystem of tools to take certain decisions of, hey, should we do change this monolith to microservice? What is the impact? Or should we change move this from AWS to cloud or some other environment? What is the impact? So if you see like these kind of use cases, uh, this is where this is the ask of what I'm seeing in the field, like going beyond code reviews.
Yeah.
Just wanted to throw out like how customers are thinking beyond like development cycle.
Yeah, I'm thinking also, like, for example, engineers at GitLab don't have access to Zendesk, right? And a lot of things come up to us to fix it. There's a link to Zendesk, but we don't get access. So an agent could pull just a summary of what would happen and what would necessary for us to look at, or they would pick up directly. We could have this connected as well to, I don't know, to forgot the name, Sentry, to already pick up easy targets for fixing, analyzing potential problems with an offer or something like an offer no with a prospect. strategies for. There are many ways we can use them, and then we have to decide whether we want to give less autonomy step by step or more autonomy.
Mhm.
Both of them have its strengths and weaknesses, and it depends a lot on the use case, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Another use case I thought like in the world of some of the financial customer, they call it like campaigns, and these are mostly from the leadership side where they run different campaigns at the start of the year. For example, hey, we need to move from Java 8 to some new version of Java. So the first question is like, hey, before I start this campaign, how many applications I have which are older version of Java, and can my AI can go and scan through my repository and understand some aspects of what needs to be done, create something for me so that I can start planning and work through like my leadership team so that we know like what needs to be done for this year, for this entire year. So different requirements, and I keep hearing campaigns. That is the word like, hey, we run these campaigns, AI tech debt campaigns or security tech debt, modernization campaigns, transformation. And they're looking for end-to-end solution, like not only like, hey, go and find out, create a plan, generate a plan for me so that I can work through my team of 6 people or multiple teams of, and then based on that, create all the bells and whistles so that I can come in, review it, and I know like, hey, this is the plan for my year.
Mm. Cool. So we are out of time. We meet again in 2 weeks for the second module. But at the same time, if anybody wants to already, it would be nice, like we can just go through the module next round, but if somebody would like to try out an agent and like play around, maybe open code could be one way, or maybe the AI catalog could be a way to also present some ideas on the next round. Next round is about reflection, so allowing the agent to think about its own output. Yeah, cool. Have a good one, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.